Many comedians have performed at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, New York, and some have done great, and some have gotten booed and come back. Some musicians, Lauryn Hill famously got booed off the stage at the Apollo Theater, and then obviously Lauryn Hill is this, worldwide sensation as a musician. So this is one of the weirdest stories. I still can't believe it happened, especially when I found out why it happened. I performed Showtime at the Apollo for TV, never aired because it was the weirdest looking set ever. I got booed and I got a standing ovation at the same time. Not like I got booed, came back, did another set in front of a different audience and did well. Not like I got a standing ovation, moved on or something, and then the next set I got booed. Same set, boos, standing ovation, same time, weirdest thing ever. Okay, so I'll try and tell the story as quick as possible because I've realized some of these stories are going longer than I wanted. But there's two parts of this story. There's what happened at the show, and then I was so confused, like I couldn't understand what happened. And then I found out why it happened the way it happened, basically, because everybody was confused. The producers of the show, some of the writers of the show, all these people were confused. People in the audience, or everyone in the audience, I guess most people in the audience. So the ones I talked to at least. So here's what happened. I got asked to do Showtime at the Apollo. I think that show was on Fox. And I didn't have, I hadn't had a TV credit in years, still really haven't for stand-up. So I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. And I remember thinking, I was like, I'm either going to do great or I might get booed. I don't know, because TV sets, if anyone doesn't know, those type of shows, like competition shows, you had like 90 seconds. You had 90 seconds to do stand-up. So if I go on stage to do a set in front of an audience at a comedy club or somewhere else, a regular set, whether I'm doing 45 minutes, an hour, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever the set is, 15, you can, if you don't start great, but you start like okay, you can win them over, you know what I mean? You might be killing by the end of the set, whatever. But 90 seconds, in my head I was like, if I don't get it with the first joke, maybe I get booed, Not saying I'm like a bad comic, but I could get booed, could happen. And I went in there thinking that. But it wasn't like, no offense to the people on the show, I don't think it was that popular of a show. I don't think it was watched very much. Like, people didn't even realize when I told them, like, oh yeah, like Showtime at the Apollo wants me to go out and do a set. They're like, that's on TV? So I was like, okay. So, but I thought, you know what, if I do well, it'll look really cool, and the Apollo Theater's historic, and it'd be cool to perform at the Apollo. Oh, I planned on, my hair is so crappy, I plan on wearing a hat. There we go. Not gonna start over. So anyways, they fly me out to New York City. I have 90 seconds. I submitted my set. They didn't even really vet it. They're like, yeah, it's fine, do that, And so I think I had 3 jokes to do total. And then my 90 seconds was going to be up. That was my whole set. So I go out there, and I remember my roommate didn't show up. It was a production was like, they were like having you room with people, right? But my point is, not that my point to that. But anyways, they definitely, a little behind the curtains, if anyone doesn't know, they book people on those shows. Some people, they're like, this person's going to do great, probably. And they book other people to get booed. Because you can't just have a show. Because the thing about the Apollo is like, when they don't like you, they let you know type of thing, right? They boo you, and that's why it's such a tough place to perform, supposedly. So you can't have a show where everybody does great, because that's not good TV. You want to have some people on there where it's like, what the heck are they doing here? You see it on America's Got Talent. You see it on everything, Even when Last Comic Standing was on, they'd have real comics, and they'd have these people that just did this weird shit, and then, people at home go, can you believe it? Like that. So they need that. And backstage, I remember there was these producers talking to this group. It was like three white guys. I think they're all gay, and they were really nice guys. I was talking backstage, but I saw the producers come to them before they went on. They're like, hey, so what's your plan, when the booing starts? Like, they were there to get booed, I guess, which I don't know why you would do that. And I guess I was there to do great, but I still was like, if you're a comedian, you fuck up the first couple seconds, they might boo you, right? So or even if it went like okay, they might be like, nah, not good enough, and they might boo you. I had no idea, never performed there. So my friend, actually, this isn't how I got on the show. When I was out there, my friend is one of the producers, and she was producing a lot of the stuff solely for Sandman, I think that's the name. The guy who, like, the Apollo, he comes out if you're doing bad and the audience is booing, he'll come up and pull you off stage, right? And he does it like in a funny way. So she worked directly with him. And she saw me. She's like, "Oh my God, you're on the show!" Like blah blah. Blah. And I hadn't seen her in a while. And she's great. She's like, someone I just really like. Don't see all the time, but really like. She's so cool. She's a comic. And she's like, "Oh, you're gonna do great. You're gonna do great." And I'm like, "I don't know." You know what I mean? Like I said, I might mess up the first joke and do bad. So here's what happens. It's TV production, right? So they film a lot of it's not like a live show where they film it all at once. Steve Harvey was the host, and I remember we were doing my interview like right outside the theater doors. Steve Harvey's on stage. He does like multiple introductions for me just so they have it on tape, and everything. And then he starts, and he's talking to the audience obviously while he's there in between. And I heard him say something like, I don't know who this guy is, and a lot of great comics that got their start at the Apollo, and obviously wouldn't be getting my start there, but whatever. And he said, I don't know. He's like, he might do great, blah blah, or something. He's like, or this might be a teachable moment for him. So, and then I heard this lady in the audience go, "Let's teach him then, Steve," right? So then it's finally, this took like probably 15, 20 minutes. There's plenty of time to know that I'm coming up next, and that's important for later in the story. So so they introduced me, and what you do, there's this, I forgot what it's called, but there's like this tree stump on stage, and you're supposed to, when you go on stage, every performer rubs it for like, to pay their respects to the Apollo. Something about this tree that was right outside the theater. I don't know. I feel like an asshole for not knowing the history, but you rub that, right? So I go on stage, rub the tree, and then the first thing I said was something like, let's hear from my mom real quick, the one who said, let's teach him then, Steve, or whatever. I said something like that, but I think it came out better. And they laughed, right? Not like a huge laugh, but they all laughed, like, okay, And I remember thinking like, oh, this is great. They're not being like super hard on me. They're laughing already, so I can't wait to do my first joke because it's really good. Usually does really well. So I think this is going to go well, right? So I said something about that lady being my mom, kind of like a strong chuckle, I would say, through the crowd. Not killing or anything, but like, they liked me, it seemed like, right off the bat. I do my first joke, which you could look at online. I think the Laugh Factory posted it years ago, and I think I might have posted it as well. Anyways, I do my first joke, and it does great. Like, great. Like, I'm getting a long applause break, right? Like it was a big laugh, and they're cheering. They're cheering so much that like it threw off my rhythm because you have to like stand there during the applause. And one thing I realized right away, the acoustics of the Apollo Theater, every theater's not the same. Some theaters are 5,000 seats, some theaters are 1,000 seats, some theaters are 300 seats. This is, I think, 598 seats or something like that. You could probably look it up online. So around 600 seats, but the acoustics were great. Like, and for comedy, you ask any comedian, if you're in a room where the acoustics are really good, it makes a world of difference because the laughter carries, it reverberates throughout the room, right? So I'm getting this big applause break, and I'm so excited. And I was like, in my head, I was like, this is great. I only have 2 more jokes to do. They're loving this first joke. I'm literally like holding the mic like, because they're applauding for so long. It was honestly like uncomfortable amount of applause for me, right? For what I'm used to. And then all I have is 2 jokes left, right? Like as the applause starts to kind of die down, I hear from this one section loud boos, right? From just this one section. I start hearing these loud boos, and this is the thing, the acoustics are really good. So the boos were loud, okay? Now this audience, you have to remember, is trained. They're trained to go like, oh, like we're booing this person. You know what I mean? Like there was a guy I remember I was talking to backstage who's a rapper from I think Atlanta, and I don't know if he was going to be good or not. I don't know who he is. And he was really bad, and like the audience immediately like started booing him. So they know that like, oh, we're booing this person. This kid is great. This person's awesome. This person sucks. Like it's like very obvious because it's for TV. So it got confusing for the audience, I guess, because I was doing great. Like everybody was like, it was such a loud laugh, like and cheering and applause. That's like, why would anyone be booing? But the boos were loud because, like I said, the acoustics. So those boos started happening. And then I remember I start my next joke, and then like some more people started booing, right? But it's not like the whole crowd's booing me off stage because everyone was just cheering for me. So it's just so bizarre and weird, right? I do the next joke, but the boos are like gathering, and like that one section specifically was like really, they were like amping it up. Like they did not want me to even get to my next joke. And I do the next joke, and from what I remember, like I think I heard like some laughter, but also the boos were so loud, and when they're like booing over the setup and everything, it was really hard. It started to get hard to hear myself. Okay, and then by the third joke, I couldn't even like hear what I was saying. I was talking into a mic, maybe they could hear it, maybe they couldn't, but the boos had like taken over. But then some people, I was like looking at the crowd, some people were standing up and cheering, like standing up, like standing ovation cheering, but the boos are still coming from specific pockets and they're loud, right? It's really, really loud and I couldn't even hear myself talk. So I did my third joke and like it was just all this noise in the theater and I see Steve Harvey walking out like, he has like this look on his face and he's staring at the audience, right? Like what the fuck are you guys doing? And Steve Harvey, as you've seen, obviously, on like Family Feud, everything, that guy knows how to milk a moment. Like, in my opinion, a little bit too long sometimes, but that guy knows what he's doing as far as hosting TV shows and stuff. So he's milking this, like, stare at the crowd forever. Meanwhile, I'd say, like, I don't know, 25% of the crowd's giving me a standing ovation. Then there's people booing. I can't tell how many people are booing. It wasn't like I was getting a full standing ovation. There's boos and everything, right? And then there's standing ovation, there's cheering, and you could see the people because it's a TV, it's lit for TV, so you could see the audience, right? A lot of the audience, usually at a theater, comedy club, the audience would be more in the dark, but you could see them, and these people are like, yeah, man, yeah, like pointing at me like, way to go. Meanwhile, there's boos. So Steve Harvey finally talks and says something like to the audience, like, what the hell are you guys booing for, something, whatever. Then he like gave me like a hug, like one of those half hug things, shook my hand, and he said something to me. It was something like you did your thing, like you were funny or something like that. And then he goes, and then he said on his mic to the crowd, like, he's like, I'm sending him back through the audience, like, because he did great, or he said something like that, right? And that's what happens. If you do well, they send you back through the crowd, and you go down this aisle, and, everything. So, and because I was standing, when I said I was done, I was like, I'm done. I go, I don't know what's going on, right? So I'm standing there with Steve Harvey for a while. Eventually he tells the audience, like, what the hell's going on? He berates them a little bit. Then he tells me I did good, sends me back through. So then I start walking through the audience, and people like have their hands out. Like I'm giving 5 to people, and I was like blown away. In my head, I was like, I expected to either do great or get booed. I didn't expect both to happen at the same time. So weird, right? So then I go through the audience, and then they do like the exit interview with me for like in case they were gonna use the set still, for TV. They didn't know what the hell's going on. And one of the girls she's on The Real. I forgot her name, but she was like the co-host. She was like Steve Harvey's co-host kind of thing. So I do my exit interview thing with her, and I don't remember what I said. I mean, the footage is somewhere, but I was like, I don't know. I guess some people liked it, some people didn't. Like beats me. But I was still like in my head. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. The thing that I thought happened was maybe somebody in the audience was like racist. Like maybe somebody like that one group was just they didn't like the fact that I was a white guy and I was doing well at the Apollo, because most of the audience was black, and I was like, maybe that's it, like everybody there was so cool, but like maybe there was somebody that was like, fuck this, I'm not gonna let a white guy do well. Like it made no sense, right? And the producers who we were all hanging out, they were like, what the fuck happened? They go like, you were doing great, why were they booing? And I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, did you tell them to boo me? Like, I don't know what's going on, And so they were all confused. I have emails from them about how they were confused. I see my friend who was the writer, producer for Sandman, and she was like, that was the most fucking bizarre thing. She's like, you were doing great. And she said whatever the Sandman's real name is, I forgot his real name, but she goes, I go, was he like gonna come out? Like, cause I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I go, some people give me a standing ovation, some people are booing. And she was just like, no. She goes, he was next to me like the whole time, and he was like, what the fuck are they booing at? This guy's killing, right? So I was like, I don't know. And then, everybody has that poor me complex. So I kind of was like, fucking just my luck. You know what I mean? This weird shit happens to me. So my buddy was there with his girlfriend at the time because he works for the NBA. So he lives in New York, or he lives out there. Yeah, he lives in New York, New Jersey area. So he was there. And then afterwards, I was leaving with them. We were in the subway and stuff. And he was like, they were both just like, that was so fucking weird. Like, that was just the weirdest thing. Like, he's like, you're doing great. He's like, I've never seen you get like an applause break that big. And I'm like, dude, I have no idea. And then I had texted my wife already what happened, like this long text explaining, because she was like, how'd it go? So I sent her this long text kind of being like, basically saying what I'm explaining to you guys, how weird it was. And then another comedian randomly, a comedian who at the time lived in LA, I don't know where he lives now, he texted me and he goes, hey man, did you do your Apollo set yet? And I was like, yeah. And I go, I just did it. And he goes, how'd it go? And I'm like, I'm just going to copy and paste what I sent to Christy, my wife. And I copy and paste and sent to him. He sends me back a screenshot from a Facebook post that tied the whole thing together. Now let's see, this camera only records for 20 minutes at a time. So let's see, I'm gonna stop it and restart it. Okay. So I'll be back with the conclusion to this weird story. Okay, so this other comic sends me this screenshot of somebody's Facebook post, okay? And just a little behind the scenes, I'm filming this on 2 different days. I filmed the whole story 2 days ago, and then the second part never recorded, didn't get erased, never recorded, right? So here we go. So if my hair on my face is a tiny bit longer and I look like I've lost a pound or gained a pound, that's why, all right? So here we go. So this comic from LA sends me a screenshot of a Facebook post, and here is what the Facebook post said. This person wrote, and I'll put this up in editing or whatever, I guess I'll put it up so you guys can see word for word. I'm not making any of this up, and you can see the post. Help! A comedian who was a dick to me and talked trash about me back in LA is about to take the stage here at the Apollo, where booing is encouraged for acts you don't enjoy. He got me taken off a few shows at a certain club because he was more popular at the time. He was a total D-bag to me and other comics. I want to point out this person is not mentioning my name, and that's for a reason. Because if you mention my name, people would be like, we probably have a lot of mutual, people we know, and that people would be like, what? What did Geoff Keith do to you? You know what I mean? Because I don't do mean shit to anyone, right? And I didn't get him taken off any shows, and he's making this up. He was a total D-bag to me and other comics. But today, I'm with 20 loud people in the audience, the loudest mofos in this building. If we boo him, the crowd will join, and no one will hear his jokes. Mission accomplished, brother. that definitely happened. Funny how life puts you in these situations, huh? So what do I do? Get my team to boo and teach him a lesson, or do nothing and let fate decide? Hashtag goes around, comes around. Now, I met this person once, okay? I remember their name, and this is the one time I met them. This person says, I was a dick to them, I talked trash about them, that never happened, and I got them taken off, taken off a few shows at a certain club. Guys, look at the views on this video. No one's even watching. I don't have the power, and I never had the power. Even when I was on, he's talking about, I was on an MTV show at the time. It wasn't like a huge hit or anything. I wasn't famous. And even if I was, I would never get anyone taken off anything. But I never had the power to get anyone taken off anything. In LA? You think I had the power to get people taken off anything? Nowhere across the country, but LA? Where celebrities run shit? I was never a celebrity. So, all right, so here's the story about when I met this person, right? I was hosting a show at Flappers. It's a comedy club in Burbank, California. I'm hosting the show. It wasn't my show, but I was hosting. I used to live in Burbank. I was right down the street, and they said, hey, you want to come by? And I got to do a lot of sets there, right? So I'm hosting the show, and there's a lot of comics on the lineup because Flappers also teaches comedy and stuff. So they have a lot of students there, comedy class people. So this is like a weekday. It's probably like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And those lineups can be kind of long, like 14, 15 comics. So a lot of you, watching this, or anyone watching this, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of anyone watching this, but you've been to a stand-up comedy show, usually you probably saw the person you came to see, and maybe they had like 1 or 2, maybe 3 people go up before them, like a host, middle, feature act, sometimes it's a guest set, but usually it's not 15 people, right? So there's probably like 15, 16 people on the show, and a lot of them, doing short sets because they're new and stuff, right? So this is one time I met him. I hosted the show, and he came up to me and he introduced himself, and he said, hey man, he goes, can I go up, is there any chance I go up earlier? I have I think he said I have an audition in the morning, right? I have an early audition. And I was like, yeah man, I'll see what I can do, So I looked at the lineup, and this guy was the guy who asked me, who posted this, that he booed me and stuff. He was late on the lineup. So I was like, man, that kind of sucks. He got an early audition. So I went to the next person on the show. I said, hey man, this guy's got early audition. And I was wondering if, you could switch with him. He has to wake up early or something. And the guy was like, oh, all right. And he kind of rolled his eyes. I'm like, no, I go, you don't want to switch, you don't have to. And the guy was like, no, he goes, it's fine. So I go up to this guy who made this post. One time I met him, and I said, hey man, I got you on next. So I saved this guy probably an hour of his life. Like, he didn't want to be there for very long because he had an early appointment, audition or whatever. And I saved him probably like an hour. Like, I moved him up probably like 10, 12 comics. So I did him a favor. I don't know when, this is me being a dick, right? So I do him a favor, I bring him on stage. This guy goes on stage, and he was like, he's British or Scottish or something, right? And I don't know if he's doing a character, if he really is that, or, because I don't remember him when he talked to me having an accent, but I don't know, he's whispering because someone was on stage. I don't know. So he goes on stage. I bring him up, you know, whatever his intro was. And he just starts going, oh, I used to wear bright colored pants on stage sometimes. I had a pair of bright pink pants, bright blue pants, bright green pants, like neon, whatever. And kind of had my own style. That was, you know, no one else wanted that style. So that's why I had it. So I was wearing one of those pants that night. And I remember this guy goes on stage and immediately was like, he's like, yeah, how about your host? He's a fucking faggot. What a faggot. Fucking look at him in his faggy pants. Fucking fag. Like he kept calling me faggot. Like he just kept calling me that. And I was sitting there. I remember I was like behind like the little, or I was standing up because he's like went into it right away. And I was just like, okay, you know, and he kept going. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to leave the room. I know however long he was doing, I have no idea how long it was, 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever it was. And so I was like, I'm not going to stay in the room so this guy can just keep berating me for some weird reason, right? So I just kind of rolled my eyes like, whatever. I come back, he's finishing up his set, and he finishes his set, and then this club, you enter the stage from the side, right? Some clubs you walk on different spots, right? So enter from this side. And he doesn't shake my hand, and he takes the mic stand and moves it over to, puts the mic on the mic stand, moves it over to like a chair in the audience, puts it on a chair or a table in the audience, like so I had to go fetch it, and then like looks at me, like gives me some shitty look, doesn't shake my hand, and just like walks past me. And I was just like, what the fuck was that? Like I did the guy a favor. He must have, I don't know if he had something against me, if that's just a shtick. It was kind of like a dick thing, because we weren't like friends. You know, I didn't know the guy, so it was kind of like a dicky move. But I was like, whatever. I'm not like somebody who's like, well, I'm gonna fucking fight, dude. You fucking wrong me, I will fight you. I'm not that guy, right? So I just remember grabbing them, like I slowly walked to the mic, got it out of the crowd, which it wasn't like a huge crowd there, so there was like an empty seat that he put it on or something. So I grabbed it, and I remember I put it back in the middle of the stage, and I was like, okay, like that was weird. And then I wasn't gonna give him the time of day because I don't know what that was, and it was just like rude and weird what he did to me. So then I just brought up the next comic, right? Didn't think anything of it. I don't believe I saw him after that. Like that, I think he just left, you know? So I didn't see him. And then I didn't go to the club or say anything. Okay, first off, I wasn't a dick to him. I did him a favor. I didn't go to the club and say anything. What happened is like a while late, like a week or so later, I was talking to the booker, and he goes, hey, did something happen, like, you know, whatever, whenever, like, I can't remember, honestly, like, when, if it was a couple days later or a week later or something, on a show, and he mentioned the guy's name, and I was like, oh, yeah, it's just weird, you know, I go, and I told him what happened, and I go, I don't know what his deal is or whatever, and then the booker told me, he's like, yeah, like, we heard about that, so we told him he can't come back for a few weeks. I think they said a few weeks, they might have said a few months. But so I'm hearing that this guy got like banned or whatever for a couple weeks. I didn't like go to the club and go, yeah, I don't like this guy. He didn't treat me right. You know, get rid of him. I didn't say shit. I didn't say anything to the club about him. The one thing I did do was that night when I went home, I noticed that this guy was my Facebook friend. Okay, now my Facebook, back when it was like something I would use more often, I didn't request anybody because I just used it for like fans. People would see me at shows, and I'd say, hey, if you'd like me, check me out on social media, you know, whatever, Facebook, Twitter. Like I would never do a hard pitch. Excuse me. So anyone who was my friend on Facebook was either a fan, and then also sometimes a lot of comedians would friend request me, people I didn't know, right? So he must have been one of those people, right? He must have been a comedian who I didn't know who had friend requested me at some point in the past. Because I accept everybody. I've never like vet who's friend requested me on Facebook. I just like, you know, whatever. Add. I don't care. If you want to be my Facebook friend, fine. So I thought that was hilarious that the guy who wanted to be my Facebook friend at some point, was like a fucking asshole to me for no reason. And when he met me in person, which I think is weird anyways, when people like want to be your friend online, and then if they meet you, they don't go, oh, hey man, I actually added you on Facebook the other day, nice to meet you. Like they just act like they don't know you. It's just I don't know, whatever. But this guy like was an extra mile. Like he was like a mean jerk for no reason, right? So I posted this. I didn't say the guy's name or anything. Oh, and this was like, I think this was like well after the thing. I said, and I'll put this up so you can see this too. The other day I was hosting a show at a comedy club, didn't even say the club, and a comic asked me if he'd go up sooner because he said he had an early appointment. So I did what I could to accommodate him and got him up right away. Then he went on stage and called me a faggot. And when he was done with his set, put the mic stand in the audience, so I had to go fetch it. I had no idea who he was or why he's such a pathetic person. Posting this because I just saw him post something on Facebook, which means we're friends on here, which means he must have friend requested me a long time ago because I definitely never requested him. Ha 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 ha, what a loser, right? And I stand by all that. The guy is a pathetic person, treats people like shit for no reason or do him a favor. Even if I didn't do him a favor, why would, even if he had to go up in his normal spot, right? So I posted that. Vague about who the person was. Didn't say he was, white, black, Latino, female, male, whatever, non-binary. Didn't say shit, okay, about the person. Didn't say that what club it was either, right? And then, people obviously are commenting like, who was it, blah, blah. And I wouldn't tell anybody, right? And I even commented on my own thing I saw. I appreciated everyone. I'm not mad, though. He's just a sad guy, obviously. And I always think it's funny when some comic I don't know friend requests me and then acts like a dick in person. I stand by that to this day. That was 7 years ago, and I stand by that to this day, right? So that's the one time I met the guy. That's literally the only time I ever met this guy is I did him a small favor. I'm not saying I deserve, a prize or anything, but the guy he had an early appointment, got him up early on the show so he could get out of there. Then he did what he did on stage, which I still don't know why. I don't know if that's just his shtick or he thought I would think it was funny. I don't know what it was. I have no idea. I don't really care. He's a weird, weird guy, right? So here's the best part. So I told you already what happened at the Apollo. Their producers, everybody, they could tell you the same thing I told you, right? And because that's exactly what happened. And I still think it's kind of cool that I think I'm the only comic ever to get booed and get a standing ovation at the same time at the Apollo. You know what I mean? So I have that, And I mean, this is the thing, man. Like, what a shitty guy. Because even now, I would, after him doing that to me, I don't know if this guy's still a stand-up, I don't know what he's doing with his life, I don't know where he lives now, apparently he lived in LA, then he lived in New York. If I was at a TV taping and he was on stage now, after what he did to me, I wouldn't ruin his set. I don't have that, it wouldn't even cross my mind, should I try and fucking ruin this guy's set? I would never do that. What a horrible, shitty thing to do, And that show that I was doing, Showtime at the Apollo, I don't think, even if I had the best set ever, which I was on my way of having a great set before that happened, it wasn't like gonna make or break my career. It wasn't like America's Got Talent, no offense to the show, thank you for having me, but it wasn't like, oh, this is gonna, make me famous or anything. But it's still just like, dude, I would have been nice to fucking have a really nice set and get a nice tape, right? So anyways, here's a part, this actually annoys me a little bit more. This guy, the next day, I guess, he wrote this on his Facebook wall, right? Yesterday, I was sitting in the audience like a lion, watching a steak on stage. An enemy of mine, and I'm an enemy of this guy somehow. An enemy of mine who'd wronged me before took the stage. I knew I had the power to crush this comedian who had been mean to me. I was mean to him somehow. And other comedians. Who are these other comedians? This is why this guy's not saying my name. What other comedians was I mean? First, I was not mean to him, but who's he talking about? This guy's just making up stories. Mean to me and other comedians in the past by simply booing. After all, this is the Apollo. Guests are encouraged to boo acts that they don't enjoy. I knew at that moment, if my team and I start booing, the whole Apollo theater would join in. Very smart. He's a very smart, nasty person. I knew I was placed in the audience as a test of character. This is what annoys me. This guy is now going to say he has great character. This was my chance to exact my revenge. After all, what goes around comes around, right? I wonder what he's doing now if he really believes what goes around comes around. How it went down. The comedian gets on stage, tells an okay joke. Part of the audience laughed. A few claps. I'm at the edge of my seat. My heart is heavy. What do? I keep asking myself. I wanted paybacks so bad. He wanted multiple paybacks. But then the comedian slipped up. His timing was off, which threw the joke off. Boom! The first boo. He keeps putting boo in quotes. I have no idea why. Is it a boo or is it a fake boo? I don't know. He jumps into another bit with a wee bit of confidence. But this is the Apollo. Like Steve Harvey said, you learn how good you are on this stage, and this audience hearts to teach, loves to teach. His nervousness was his undoing. The audience tasted blood and unleashed a giant boo, followed by more. He stopped talking. He didn't even wait for the guy with the cane to sweep him off stage. He ended his set and gave up. He didn't even finish his time. Right before my eyes, I got to see revenge take place. All right, a couple of things about this. I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous video because now it's been 2 days. My friend, who was a producer on the show, was right next to the Sandman, the guy who takes you off stage. I asked her, or I didn't ask her, she told me after the thing, she was like, that was so bizarre. And I go, what was going on with you, like over there on the side? She goes, everybody was just confused. And she goes, and I forgot the Sandman what his real name is. She goes, he said, he was like, why the fuck are they booing this guy? He's killing. So that's what that guy said. So I did not wait for the guy to come out. He was never going to come out. And I think she even told me, he said, like, I'm not fucking going out there. This is ridiculous. Because the guy was killing and he shouldn't be getting booed. So then he said he ended his set and gave up. I mean, I ended my set. I didn't give up. I finished my whole set. Like, this, I only had 3 jokes. I did the first one, it did great. He started booing. The second one, some of the crowd heard, some didn't. And by the third, I don't think the crowd could hear me. I couldn't hear me, whatever. But I did finish. So how does he know what my set was? He's just, again, the guy is nuts and he's making stuff up. He ended saying, he didn't even finish his time. What the fuck is this guy talking about? He has no idea. I had 90 seconds. I did the whole thing. So I did every approved joke I sent, and that was my whole set. Whatever. When I saw this, it made me sad. Now, see what a good person he is? I thought I wanted revenge, but honestly, back when it happened, I wanted revenge. I really haven't thought of it since. After all, I'm a comedian too. He hasn't thought of it since. Yet, right when he saw me, that I was coming up next, and he had like 15 minutes to prepare, he made a whole Facebook post about it, and then like went to this extra length to just completely ruin my TV set with his friends, who I'm sure his friends, whoever they are, they probably were like, this guy's a dick to you? Let's get him, But I don't know, even if I was with somebody who was like, hey, this person on stage was mean to me, even if I don't know that they're lying about it, I still would be like, well, I'm not gonna fucking boo. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, why would we do that, But whatever. Obviously, he's a really, really lame guy, and he hangs out with lame people too. Seeing him bomb, I saw myself. I felt his embarrassment and pain. Happy to say, I let his fate decide his ending. I wasn't embarrassed at all, and I wasn't in any pain. I was extremely confused afterwards. I had the first joke go as well as it possibly could have gone, and then I was just confused, like, why are people booing? And as soon as I saw his post, I was like, oh, it makes sense. And just to prove, and I could verify this, that I never got this guy taken off any show, and even after this, I had a chance to get him taken off a show, and I didn't. It was just some lame little, I shouldn't have said lame. It was just some small little, gotta wrap it up. It was some small little bar show, and when I saw that he was, and this is after this happened, I knew this happened, and I said to the guy who ran the show, I said, hey man, I'm not gonna go tonight. Because this guy's on the show, and he did this when I did the Apollo, and I sent him like the screenshots, and he was like, oh my God, man. He's like, fuck that guy. He's like, do you want me to take him off the show? And I said, no. I never want that guy taken off a show at my request because he is making up stories that I did that and I never did, and I don't want him taken off this show either. I go, I'll just do it another week. I go, leave him on the show. I will never get that guy or anyone else taken off a show. So anyways, that is the story about how I got a partial standing ovation and partial boo. So I got booed and a standing ovation at the world famous historic Apollo Theater. Fucking pretty weird story.